Abu Dhabi for the UAE Tour, which is the only World Tour race in the Middle East. And we're here to pick out the lightest, the spiciest, the hottest, the shiniest and the most aero tech that the race has to offer. Big shout out to the organisers of the UAE Tour, because it's thanks to them that we're here on the ground to pick out all of this latest and greatest tech. Let's do it. Starting with this, the Canyon Aeroad, the bike of Team Alpecin Phoenix. Now, the bike has been around for a couple of years now, but what caught my eye is that this year, every single team bike is fitted with the latest Dura-Ace 9200 group set. And what particularly stood out on this bike, which is Scott Thwaites' bike, is that he has the 54-tooth and the 40-tooth chainring setup. So that much larger chainring than what many people will be familiar with. And it's interesting that Canyon have managed to get their hands on all of these group sets and chain sets, because from speaking to a number of the team mechanics here, some of them are struggling with parts supply, much like you and I at home. Check this out, it is the giant TCR of Damien Housen from Team Bike Exchange Jayco. Now, there's a couple of cool bits on this bike which have caught my eye. First thing that really stood out to me is this whacking great big stem. Now, I've had the tape measure here, and it measures 140 millimeters. And it's really interesting to see a team opting for a separate handlebar and stem, and also it routes the hoses externally, which is going to make the life of the team mechanics much, much simpler when it comes to making any adjustments or completing some maintenance on this bike. Also, something cool to see on this bike are the Cadex wheels. These feature the carbon fibre spokes. Now, these are not bonded to the hub or the rim, which means they are completely serviceable should the mechanics have to either true the wheels or if anything becomes damaged in an accident. And then final cool thing on this bike which has caught my eye is how incredibly thin the paintwork is on this bike to try to keep the weight as low as possible. So all of the little graphics and details that are within the paintwork, you can almost feel the small difference in the height of the paint. So that's really, really thin to try and keep the bike as light as possible. This is the Lapierre Aerostorm DRS, and it's the time trial bike of Groupama FDJ. Now, two things have caught my eye on this bike. Firstly, is that every single time trial bike, so each rider on the team, has these custom-made time trial extensions. Now, depending on the position of the rider, the height of the armrests will increase or decrease, and also the length of the overall handlebar will be different. Now, because these are custom-made for each rider, the foam and the arm pads on the top are also hand-cut to fit the finish of the handlebars, and that must be a fairly time-consuming process for the mechanics, having to cut those out individually by hand. Now, something else that has caught my eye with these time trial bikes is the use of these, the latest Continental GP5000 STR. Now, these are the latest offering from Continental, and they offer a much lower rolling resistance than the previous model, so you can see why they've opted to run this tyre on the time trial bikes, ready for stage 2 of the UAE Tour. Oh, take a look at this. This is the Look 795 Blade RS, an absolute weapon of a bike. But something that stands out to me is the fact that we've got a separate bar and stem combo, but it's using a sort of semi-integrated design with a little housing around the back area of the stem. That means we've got part of the benefits of that integrated cable and hosing system, sort of reducing some of the aero drag and making the front of the bike look neat and tidy. But also, it just makes the mechanics' lives much easier when they're having to transport bikes, pack them up, or even just replace any of the components. It's really cool to see. So yeah, I like that. So I've just dropped by into the Alpecin Phoenix stand, and I've seen Nick, so he's one of the team mechanics. Now, usually he would have a whole big truck full of all the tools and equipment that he needs, but seeing as we're in Abu Dhabi, he's had to pack quite light, so he's packed a slimmed down selection of tools. So Nick, can you just explain to me some of the tools that we've got here?
Yes.
What have we got?
What is an important tool for me is this one, to put back the disc brakes and the cassettes. So that's a tool we use a lot in these races, because it's difficult if you put the disc brakes on the wheels, they will be banned from the transport, and so we take them off every time. So it's a little bit better. For the rest, we have like the usual tools like the Allen keys, 4, 5, 6 millimeter. That's something what we use also a lot. But actually, for the modern bikes, you need not so much tools. It's all electronics, so it's a lot. It's actually easier working, but it's some more complicated.
Okay, perfect. That's really good. So, like you say, it's good that you don't need loads and loads of equipment. So that's a cool point. And one of the tools that stands out to me are these, which are for a quick link in a chain, aren't they? And I've not seen a set like this. So, depending on whether you want to fit it on or take it off the bike, you use the different side.
Yeah, the one side is to lock it, to close it. So you can close it like this.
Yeah.
You close it, and the other side is to open it. So you can use them in both directions.
Oh, perfect.
It's a new Shimano tool.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah. All right, well, thanks for showing us that. I'll leave you to it.
Okay,
cheers. Now, like lots of teams here, the riders are getting to grips with their new equipment. And as such, he's got a really cool bit of equipment, which is a jig, which actually clamps onto the front and rear axles of the bikes, locates to centralise itself using the bottom bracket. And then there's special adapters and clamps, which can go onto the jig itself so that he can position the fore and aft of the saddle, the height of the saddle, and also reference points for the handlebars and the shifters. And that's a really interesting point to see, to make sure the mechanics can get each rider's bike precisely how they like it, so that as soon as they jump on it, it's ready to go, nice and easy. Just dropped by the Bardiani team pit area, and this is quite possibly the most organised and neatest mechanics toolbox I think I've ever seen. I think I've actually got toolbox jealousy, if that's the thing. Now inside here, this is a neat little tool which I've picked out. So once you've got it unfolded like that, you then slide this little silver piece over the top of your disc brake rotor, and it fits in between the gap between the pads and the rotor to enable you to centralise the caliper perfectly without any guesswork. That's a neat little tool, that. And then in addition to that, we have this, which is a electronic impact driver or wrench. Now, loads of mechanics are using these now. A couple of seasons ago, there was only really one or two of the team mechanics which have them, whereas now they've all got these things when they're whipping through axles in and out of bikes in a matter of seconds. Now, this has a brushless motor, and the mechanic tells me it is set to 15 Newton meters, which is pretty much the standard for most bikes through axles now. Oh, I do like that. God, I wish I had one of these. Oh, it's not easy picking out all this hot tech. It's thirsty work. And just like any high-performance athlete, I'm exactly the same. I need to stay fueled and hydrated. Off for more tech. Check this out. How cool is this? It's an Audi SQ5. Now, the race organisation have supplied all of the teams with Audi vehicles. And the reason behind this is because in races that are outside of mainland Europe, all of the teams can't exactly transport all of their fleet of vehicles across to the race. And as such, this is what they're supplied with. Not exactly slumming it, are they? 356 brake horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 5.1 seconds. It's got 21-inch wheels, and it's even got bits of carbon fibre on the interior. Incredible. Whereas people like us and the behind-the-scenes support staff are supplied with this, a Toyota Hiace. 174 horsepower, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 14 seconds, although it does have the ability of carrying 15 people inside. Oh, and check these out, 15-inch rims. So what has become apparent to me as I've been working my way around the pits with my tech magnifying glass out is that some of the teams, even the World Tour teams, the best in the world, are still struggling to get hold of some of the parts and equipment that they would usually have. And as such, we're seeing a mixture of new and old group sets on bikes. I'm even seeing quite a lot of teams running the latest Dura-Ace 9200 group set with the 9100, so the 11-speed chain set. That's an interesting choice to do there, and I think from speaking to lots of the mechanics, it's mostly down to the supply of the larger size chain rings, which all the pro riders want for the crazy fast speeds that they ride at. So there you have it. That's the latest and greatest hot tech from Abu Dhabi here at the UAE Tour. So why don't you let me know in the comments section down below which was your favourite bike or bit of tech. And if you want to see the race, well, it's available live and on demand on GCN Plus, and it starts tomorrow. Right, I'm off to go and sit by the pool, put my swimming trunks on and have a pina colada. See you later.